everyone. I hope that you are all doing well during this really trying time. I am here today for my weekly demo and wish all of you who are celebrating and observe a happy Passover, and all those who observe a happy Easter coming up. Hi Doreen, I hope you're having a good day. So what I'm going to demonstrate today is I'm going to demonstrate how to restring a necklace. So this necklace was tied. You can see that I've got some loose beads here, and they've come off. And I actually am restringing this for a customer who wanted to have a clasp added on to it. So I'm going to show you how to restring a necklace. It's really easy to do. Hi Lisa, hope you're doing well. And I'm going to show you how to restring a necklace with materials that you can get very easily at a craft store. And just for those of you, if you're interested in doing something like this yourself, even though so many places are closed because they're not essential, I do know for a fact that Michael's is doing curbside pickup. Delivery rather. So if you order things online from them, you can, if there's any materials here that you see you want to restring your own necklaces or bracelets, you can usually get the materials, just call them up ahead of time, and then they'll just bring it right to your car, which I think is really, really nice. There may be other places doing that too, but I know for sure Michael's is doing that. So here's a necklace that I'm going to be restringing, and I have a clasp here, and I'm going to be using a hook and eye clasp. Here's a hook part, and here's the eye part. And then you're also going to need crimp beads. So the crimp beads are really tiny. Let's see if I can hold one up here for you because they're super small. See that? It's super, super small. They come in like little bags like this, or sometimes you can get them in tubes like this. These are crimp beads. There's crimp beads and crimp tubes. You can use either of them. They both work fine. And then of course you need, some people have liked to use beading wire or beading thread, but the thread I find breaks down much too quickly. And easily. So what I love using beading wire. Again, this is what I get. And they come in different thicknesses. The beading wire, this is a 0.015, and I use this for my necklaces. If I have necklaces that are heavier, the beads are heavier, then I'll use a stronger one. So the larger the smaller the number, the thicker and more strong the wire is. So I tend to use this as a 0.015, which I use for my necklaces. Sometimes I'll use them for bracelets too, although sometimes I'll use the 0.018 for the bracelets because they usually hold just fine, unless it's a really thick, heavy bracelet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of this wire. And I like to cut a fair amount off because a lot of beading instructions I've read over the years, they do a really precise amount. I like to cut a little extra because I like to have a little more to work with. So I'm going to cut off, off what I will do when I'm making a necklace. So I will actually literally take the wire and put it around my neck and just kind of guesstimate. So I'm going to cut it off about here. My scissors. Okay. So now the first thing you want to do, because you're going to be adding a clasp on here and there isn't anything specific you have to put in the middle, it's all one fluid necklace. You want to put on one end of the clasp and a crimp. So with a crimp, the crimp tube, the way that you can close them, they're different tools. So you can use, there's all sorts of different crimpers. This one I love. It's called the one-step crimp, because you put the crimp in there and you just press down and then it crimps it for you, which means in the crimping it closes it onto the wire so that it holds onto the wire so that the clasp won't come off and the beads won't come off. So this is one of my newest tools that I really like for crimping. But there's also classic crimpers, which is what this is. So you would put the crimp in here, close it, and then you would turn the crimp and then put it here and close it. And this basically does the same thing this does, but it takes 2 steps to use this one step to use this. And this one I find holds things tighter. But to be even easier, you can also just use your pliers, your flat nose pliers, and that's what I'm going to show you today because it's one of the easiest things I find to do, and it holds things really well. And then you can always put a crimp cover over it if you want to get extra fancy, which I have some of. So I'm going to do the first step here. So I'm going to take my wire, my end of the wire here, and I'm going to put a crimp on, slide it on like that, and then I'm going to put one end of the clasp on. Here's the clasp, and it's on like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of my wire here and I'm going to fold it over like this and put it through the crimp. So you're making a little loop like that. Okay, so I'm going to slide the crimp down a little closer to the clasp. You want to leave a little bit of give, you can see there, between the crimp and the clasp, and that's just to make it so that it's easier to move, the clasp that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to press down on the crimp tube to flatten it. And it looks like that. It's all flattened now. Now, one way to be sure that your crimp is staying on tightly and your clasp isn't going to move and then your beads aren't going to move off of it once everything is closed up, you can wiggle the end cord here just a little bit just to see if anything moves, and nothing's really moving one way or the other. It's on there really good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start stringing things up, and this one is really a very simple thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this end off here of the necklace since I'm restringing it, and this is all broken anyways. Okay, so what I like to do with the you can see I've got a little tail here. I always like to put 2 to 3 beads over this thick-wise just to reinforce it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bead here and I'm going to just slide it on. So find the end, there we go. And now I've slid it on here, but now I'm going to carefully slide it over both ends here, including the part that I just crimped on. Like that. So you can see that the bead is now over both parts of the wire. So I'm going to do that again with another bead. There it is. So you can see it's on both sides now. So sometimes I will do this with 2 or 3 beads. I think 2 here is enough. You can see there's a little bit of a tail here. So what I'll do, you can see a little bit that's there at the end, like right there. So I'm going to just take my scissors and as close as I can get, just trim off the rest of that tail. Okay. All right. Hi, Barbara. I hope you're having a good day. All right, so now I'm going to continue restringing this necklace. And because I've done this many times, it won't take me all that long. So now I'm just restringing because it's a pretty straightforward thing. I'm just putting the same beads back on, restringing one at a time. So I just put it through one bead at a time here. They're really pretty. These are African trade beads, glass, which are really nice. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in, and I will answer any questions that you have. Now once I've got all these beads restrung on here, I will show you how to do the other end of the clasp, and then we'll be all set. And again, any of these like materials you can get from like Michael's. I know all the AC Moores have now closed or are closing, and any other craft stores. And like I said, Michael's, at least many of them are now doing curbside delivery, so you can call them or order online and get what you need, and then they'll just bring everything to your car, which I think is really neat. So if you have anything you want to make, or you just have a crafty itch, it's a great way of getting some materials if you don't have them at home already. So now I am just restringing these on. Not very exciting, but I'm just putting them on one bead at a time. And it doesn't take too long, and hopefully it won't be too loud here. We're supposed to be getting some thunderstorms coming, but we've only had a couple here just before I started. So, and again, just shout out if you have any questions. Okay, so I've just strung up all the loose beads, but you can see there's a whole lot more here on. So there are different ways I could do this. If I wanted to, I could actually take my wire, and I'll show you one way of restringing quickly, although it doesn't always work depending on what they're strung on and how thick the holes are. One way you can sometimes restring things, if everything is already restrung but you have to redo it, you can stick your wire down all the way through and then slide things on, but these holes are not big enough to do that with what it's strung on, so I can't do that. So I have to do one at a time, but that's okay. It's very meditative, it's easy to do, it's simple, and you'll have a beautiful necklace done and restrung and fixed. So, how is everyone out there doing? How are you doing today? You doing well? Hopefully. After this, soon after this, I've got to start working on my matzo balls for dinner tonight. It's a perfect night for matzo balls with all the rain coming. So, and these are really, really pretty beads. They're African trade beads. And the African trade beads actually, they used to be especially used as money way back. Some places they still are. Although a lot of the African trade beads now are made for import. But some of the older ones are not, were used for money. Also used for ceremony. Also used for just for bartering and trading with other countries, other cultures. You can see this is going pretty quick. So do any of you have any favorite beads you like to wear? Hi Shelly, hope you're doing well. So I'm getting there. I'm getting towards the end of, well, towards the middle here of the necklace that I'm restringing. You can see I'm getting there. So what I'm doing is taking it off of the, what it was strung on before was really like string. And honestly, string is not a good thing to use. You can for short term, but if you really want your necklace to hold. Hi. Oh, hi, Shell. You're your last client of the day. Oh, good. Well, I hope your client is doing well. I am showing everyone how to restring a necklace. So anyways, as I was saying, I'm using beading wire because when you use beading wire, because it's so durable, once you string something onto beading wire, it's unlikely you'll have to restring it again. Unlike if you're using string, I mean, string will work for a while, but eventually all the fibers break down and pretty quickly. So when I'm making something, I tend to like to use wire, you know, and this is flexible. As you can see, it's very flexible beading wire. It's not tough and thick, and it will move, as you can see. Unlike some other wire that you might use to like wrap things with, and that's a lot more stringent. But I definitely like using the beading wire because it's durable, it lasts longer. There's silk too, which you can use. Again, you have to be careful with how often you wear it and where you wear it, and that you don't get it wet. Again, because it can break down really easily and not last. You know, it can fall apart pretty quickly. So when I do jewelry making, I usually like to use the flexible beading wire like this, or nylon thread, which is also very durable. Hi Stuart, I hope you're doing well and having a good day. Happy Passover. So Stuart that's watching, it's my nephew. So I'm getting there with my restringing of the necklace. So any of you that tuned in later didn't start from the beginning, I will be saving this video so you can, it'll be on my Facebook page so you can watch it anytime. You can watch it from the beginning if you so choose to catch the parts that you didn't see. Okay, so I'm getting there. I'm almost done. You can see just have this little bit here, just this little bit to string on. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to type in and ask me. Or if you have any comments, feel free. I can see what you're putting on there. at the end here. And because these beads are all glass, it's going to be kind of heavy at the end. Almost done getting them threaded on. Just have 2 more beads. I'm going to throw, here's the thread that it was on. You can see how worn that is. Yeah, thread just, it breaks, the fibers just break down so quickly and easily. It's just not a good thing to use. Although, I mean, some of these necklaces which were made a long time ago, the beading wire wasn't around. But now that we have it available, I do highly suggest you use it. Okay. So let me get these last 2 beads on. Okay. All right, so now I've got everything strung on here. So now I need to go and put on the other crimp bead. I'm going to slide that on here. You can see there it is. And this is going to help to hold the necklace together. And then I'm going to put the other half of my clasp on. And it's on there. So now, again, like the other side, I'm going to fold the wire over and put it through the crimp tube again. You can see it's makes a little loop. So now what I'm going to do, now I'm at the end of the necklace, I'm going to slide the wire down a bit, because you can see I've got some extra wire here which I don't need. So now I'm going to, you have to kind of play with this a little bit, and I'm going to slide, actually I'm going to slide my crimp tube down a little further and put the wire through it again. Just so it's closer to where the beads are. I'm going to do it closer to me and I'll show you here. Just easier for me to do it in front of me rather than up in the air. Okay, so you see that? Okay, so there's a big loop here. You don't want all of that. So what I'm going to do before anything, like the other end, I had the wire put through the first 2 beads here. So I'm going to put this wire tail through these 2 beads to really solidify the whole piece. Okay, so I've gone through 1. See, there's 1. Now I'm going to put the other bead through it. And sometimes you have to pull the wire a little bit to play with it, just so you can get it to work the way you want it to. Okay, so now it's through. You can see the wires through both of those beads, but there is a gap here, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull on this end with 1 finger, and I'm going to hold on to the clasp with the other. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull these beads and the crimp down to here. And sometimes you have to, it doesn't want to budge on me, because these holes are really narrow, more narrow than I was expecting. Okay. getting there. Do you see how it's getting closer? So sometimes too, when you do that, you have to make sure that this crimp, sometimes the crimp will get stuck up in here. Hi Shawnee, hope you're doing well. Sometimes this crimp will get stuck next to the clasp, so you'll have to like keep pushing it down so that you can keep moving the rest of the beads down. So actually what I'm going to do, because these beads are not complying with how things usually go, I am going to, because the holes are more narrow than they look, which means these beads are pretty old is my guess. So what I'm going to do now is I just pulled the wire and held on to the clasp, and I just to move the crimp down, and now you can see all the beads are all together. Now I'm going to put these two wires through these two beads, if they'll cooperate. So it's through one bead here now. Do you see? Got it through one. And now I'm going to put it through the other second bead here from the end. And again, the reason to do this is it helps to solidify the necklace and keep things together. So see, the second wire gone through the second bead here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push these beads down a little bit, and you see how the crimp is now next to the clasp? I'm going to move this crimp down next to the beads like that with my thumb, and now I'm going to pull on this wire and hold on to the clasp at the same time, which is going, and I'm going to lay this down because it'll be easier to get things to work right, and then it's going to move the clasp down a little further. Okay, so there we go. So now we've got this all together. So now what I'm going to do is I have a little extra room here, and again, want the clasp to hang a little bit, so that way it makes it easier to clasp on, so it's not so stiff. So now I'm going to crimp the tube, and again I'm going to take my flat nose pliers to do this, because it's just the simplest, easiest way to close off a crimp when you're first learning. So I'm going to take my pliers on here, I'm going to just press down, and it's going to flatten it, and you'll feel it when it flattens. And now you can see it's all flattened. And then one way to be sure that it's flattened there, you can move your tail wire to make sure that the crimp isn't moving anywhere, which it's not. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this tail. We don't need that extra wire anymore. And you have your necklace. Now, what I'd like to do, see that? How pretty that is? Now, I have these other things called crimp covers. And they're like these little extra little bits that you put over the crimp to make it look extra fancy, extra nice. I'm going to do that on these just because it'll help solidify the look. So this is what a crimp cover looks like. Looks like actually like a little C. See that? It's small, really small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over. What you do with them is you're going to put it over one of the tubes that you've crimped down already. And this is always tricky to make sure they stay on. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, I have it, see if I can show this to you close up. It's sitting on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, here we go. No, it just slid off. Okay, so when I have it sitting on, you see that there? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my flat nose pliers on either end of the crimp cover. And again, the crimp covers are not, you don't have to use them, but I sometimes like to use them, especially if I'm using like flat. It just makes the piece look nicer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat nose pliers on either end of it and carefully close it. It's just moving a little bit for me as I'm talking and not paying attention to what I'm doing and looking at you instead. Okay, so I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and close them as tight as possible. Okay, so see that cover is on there now? It looks nice. Oh, except that it's just slid. Okay, now I'm going to do the one on the other side. Over the crimp. Again, I'm gonna press down with both sides here. Press down a little bit more. There. And it's on. See? So that's basically how you restring a necklace. There it is, all strung up on beading wire. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions or on this, feel free to message me, comment. I'm happy to help you with it. Again, if you're not sure exactly what tools you need or supplies, let me know. I'm happy to give you pointers on to help you so you can restring your jewelry. And if you need help, I mean, I'm happy. I do restring things for people. This is actually for a customer of mine who needed a necklace restrung. So I'm happy to do that for you as well. If you need it, just let me know. And I am doing things even at this time for people, because it's easy enough to just drop things off or on my porch or on their porch or mailbox or just mailing it back to and fro. So I hope you have a great day, rest of the day, and I hope if you're celebrating Passover, have a good Passover. And if you're celebrating Easter this weekend, I hope you have a lovely Easter. Again, I will be saving this video. It will be on my Facebook page shortly. Have a great day. Bye.